Hello beautiful people, Zach Dowdy here, and today I'm going to be setting up a new skateboard, a new deck, because recently I had a skateboard freak out moment. We're going to get into that later. I just got back from the skate shop and actually picked up 2 decks. Pretty hyped. I also picked up a shop board, Pacific Drive board, with the art done by Neil Blender. The skate shop Pacific Drive here in San Diego just did a whole series. Ben Horton, Neil Blender, and Sam Hitz, they all just did a different graphic, and they got some new shop boards. So if you're in San Diego, go grab one. Pretty hyped. I'm actually going to be putting this on my wall because I have a black wall that I think this is going to go really good on. And then I also picked up another polar board, and what do you know? I actually had a lot of fun on this deck, so I'm going to kind of go into why I think this deck is super fun, kind of having a blast on it. Also a little story about why I picked up this board, and then break this bad boy in with a session. Let's set up this board, disassemble my old board. I really like this board. It's a polar board, and I went into all the specific last time, so I'm not going to go too much into this actual deck. I'll leave a link up above if you are interested into the specs of this specific board that I'm going to be setting up today. So the first thing that I want to do, just take this plastic off the Neil Blender Pacific Drive collab board, because like I said, I have an area where I want to hang this board. Something that I always thought was pretty crazy, or didn't really realize until I got older, is when I was young I got to skate with Neil quite a lot at Claremont Skatepark here in San Diego during the time that he was filming his 88 footwear part, and just for a good span of a couple years actually. And I really just didn't know like what that meant or how legendary he really was. I mean, I've seen videos and I kind of knew, but I really just didn't know because I was younger. And he was always really cool, really nice to me, and my dad always said what's up and was just a really nice, humble guy. And I feel like just like one of the most authentic skateboarders out there. I kind of compare him to like Wes Kramer almost in a way, because they're both just on that whole different sort of level. So that's why I think I'm really hyped on this skateboard in particular. Always a big fan of Neil's art, and I think this one's gonna go really cool on the wall. Now I'm excited to get that board on the wall. This is probably the first time I've ever had the exact same graphic and shape on a board twice in a row. I really like this shape, and to be honest, I only had this board for probably like 3 weeks and I just wasn't done with it, so I got myself another one. And to be honest, I'm never really the type of person to just break boards when I'm angry. That is a common theme. Seen it, you've probably seen it, trying tricks over and over and over and over. It can be very frustrating. Then you break a board or do something. I was sort of in that moment, basically I had a chip on my nose, and then I saw it and I was just like, screw it, and I kind of just let loose. I was like, I'm super frustrated and angry now, I'm just gonna bash this nose basically and mess it all up. Then I did feel really good after, but the good part is I didn't break the middle of the board, so I was still able to skate it. I'm not a huge sticker fan. Sometimes it's got to be a good one, but let's disassemble my other board really quickly so we can set it up. As you know, I am a fan of Jessup. Regardless of the Jessup Nike collab, I still like Jessup. I think it's one of my favorites. It's not as grippy as Mob, but I kind of like that. I think it's a good thing. Let's go all black this time, and then do some paint markers on the top. You gotta get that little sticker off. I hate when you put the sticker, leave the sticker on there, it ends up like bubbling up under the grip. I can get it all in one stencil. Let's see if I can get it. Got a little gap right there. How to do that though? There was no leftover. I think we did it. One choke on. All right, now rails. This weather is crazy today. It's hot and cold and hot. So I was trying to set up the same rails, but I realized the nails aren't really working with these rails anymore because they're so worn down. So I'm gonna have to set up some freshies, and luckily I did purchase them because I was ready. I knew it was coming soon. Today is the day. I'm gonna put these black bone ribs on. Get the other rail. And you can kind of bend your rails a little when you're putting them on if you want to add a little warp or shape to them, especially if your board has a little taper. Since this deck has a little bit of a taper and it gets bigger on the top versus the bottom, kind of set them up so they go at a little bit of an angle, kind of bow out, and then even come back in on one side. There we have it, all set up. Definitely gonna put some elbow grease into those rails. Excited to go re-break this deck in. All right, we're at Dallas Skate Park, local best worst skate park here in San Diego. Pretty mellow. There's a couple of people here, a bunch of kids just left, so I'm gonna try to break in the board. Whoops. So I'd figure I'd kind of break down why I think this is the perfect setup right now, why I'm really loving it. And like I said, this deck, the shape alone is really cool. I think what I've really liked about this shape is that the tail goes straight out and then curves in, but it's not a total flat tail. So you still have some of that curve scooping it, so you can flick it, tray flip it, varial flip it, whatever you want to do. Point being is like you still get that side scoop, but because it's so straight out, something about that is really nice for tail slides, tail blocks, lean to tails, backside airs, even just something about having that very straight shaped tail right here is really nice. And then how it doesn't taper in too much, but then it squares out. And I do like how it kind of tapers up. As you see, the shape gets a little bit wider. The only thing that I think maybe I would do is increase the entire shape by like 0.125 maybe, just to have it all a little bit bigger. As you can see, my trucks stick out a tiny bit, but at the same time, I almost think it is perfect. They don't really stick out. I think just on the back they stick out. I am riding some 55 Aces right now. They aren't the AF1. They're actually the original Aces, and I love the original Aces. I'm super hyped on them. I did pre-order the Lurp Piv truck, so I'm super hyped when those come out. I'll probably set those up next, but these 55s have been treating me really well. Something I was talking about recently with my friend Chris is like, once you get down to this point where you're kind of grinding those Aces down, they do seem to have a little more grab. I'm not sure if it's just the metal or material, but then after a while you kind of push them through that and then they start grinding again. So my point is like, I've kind of gotten these through like that sort of grabbing stage. Now these trucks are grinding really, really good. They don't have a total groove in there yet, but they're starting to get a little flattened out to where kind of have that nice 5.0 spot, which I'm pretty hyped on. The shape alone, also something else. I really like this nose. As you can see, the nose does sort of kind of square out too, but not too much, and it still has some of that curved point. So for backside airs, which I love doing, lean to tails, I love grabbing my nose quite a bit. It's really nice because it like perfectly sets you up for that. So if you're trying to learn airs or something like this board would be really good for you because like you can just trail grab it, everything like that. It avoids you going right here and grabbing right here, which is something you never really want to do. You always want to grab on the side. So yeah, and I like this slow taper up. I think it's just been really fun. Something about having a little bit of more foot space back here and then a little less back here is really nice. I feel like it just has more like ollie factor for like backside ollies and front side ollies. Like you can almost control with your front foot and then you still have that like sort of leverage that you want to have with your back foot to have that little scoop pocket. So I'm really loving this board. Also, my split fire Formula 4 54 wheels, I'm really hyped on them still. I might go bigger on the next set, but I'm really loving the smaller wheels because I'm closer to the ground. I feel like I can lock into Smith grinds and certain tricks better than that. I've been loving them for slappies. Smaller wheels for slappies are always much better. I got the Bronson bearings, but I think I am gonna need some new bearings soon. As you can see, some of the shields already fallen off, and that happens with Bronsons. Occasionally you got to take the shields off and then clean them up, but overall this setup has been treating me really well. I said I wasn't going to go into the specs, but just since you're here, at the very top of this board, it is an 875 actually at the very top, so way up here. Then down below, at the very smallest, it gets small, it gets down to about an 8 inches right under this back bolt. So it is a lot of taper, but it's a really gradual taper. As you can see, it's small here, comes out and comes back in. So it's not really dramatic. It's a mellow shape, but it's small enough to where it makes a big difference. So we're gonna have a lot of fun on this board, having a blast. Hope you guys enjoy this quick little video on my current setup. Like I said, I'll be mixing it up soon, but right now I feel like I'm in such a good groove and I'm really liking the setup. Hopefully some of these suggestions and tips will help you to get out there and switch up your setup, motivate you and keep skating. All right guys, see you next one. Mash.